Alright, welcome to my video explanation of my automatic suspension adjustment system script for space engineers, which is available on the Steam Workshop. Today I'll be explaining to you how to I'll be explaining the script, what it is, how to implement it in your own builds, and why you might want to do that. We'll start, of course, with what it is, which is a script that adjusts the suspension strength of your wheels. You have your wheel, you have your suspension on it, and it has this variable called strength, which is, of course, its ability to absorb the impact of driving over rough terrain. Now, you can, of course, manually adjust this by adjusting the slider, and that's probably what most of you do, and what I also often do is just I hop in here and I find whichever value seems to work best with all of my wheels, and right now it seems to be around a good 6. But here's the thing, instead of doing that every time I want to adjust the suspension, I can just run this script instead that automatically adjusts the suspension strength for me. It seems to think that the appropriate strength is 5, which that seems about right. Now, obviously, doing this, hopping in here and changing the strength isn't that much of a hassle. So why would you want a script to do it for you? Well, simple. The weight of your vehicle isn't constant. You might add weight to the vehicle in the form of new modifications like new turrets or a bigger engine, but you might also remove weight by, say, taking off cargo. In those instances, the weight of the vehicle will change, and as the weight of the vehicle changes, well, the suspension strength will become relatively either too strong or too weak, which makes it a good idea to adjust the suspension strength again. And you don't really want to keep doing that manually, so it's easier to just hop in here and run the script every time, or even let it run itself, which is a feature it has, than to constantly have to, adjust this slider here. So that's pretty much what it is and why it is you would want to use it. So how do you use it? Well, simple. First of all, you're of course going to want a programmable block with this script running on it. You can see here is the script. I hope this is relatively readable. Yeah. And quite simply, all you gotta do is just have the script, and you gotta make a block group called wheels and controller, although this name you can change it in the script. But this group needs to have the wheels you want adjusted and at least one ship controller, either a cockpit, but it could also be a remote control, or for example a control station. And of course you're also going to want power, because otherwise the script can't really run. And that's really all you need, just a group of wheels and a cockpit in a group. They don't need to have these fancy names. These fancy names here with the FL and the FR and the RL and RR, they are required for an optional feature, which is weighting. But we'll get into that in a bit. Simply just putting this group together and just pressing run will automatically work for you, and it'll adjust itself based on how many wheels you add. If I add another wheel up here, obviously these aren't going to bear any of the load, but if I add them to the system, to the group, then boom, the suspension strength will change because the weight has changed, but also because it's now having to divide the weight of the vehicle between 6 wheels instead of 4. Yeah. So let me just real quick hop into the script here, and I'll show you some of the variables you can change as part of the settings for the script. So we'll start with this first one here called the auto update. Simply put, this enables the script, when set to true, it enables the script to keep repeatedly changing your suspension strength every 100 frames. It's a bit too often, so I prefer to leave it off, or even better, using a timer to just automatically trigger this every, say, 10 minutes or so. Having it run every 100 frames is a bit overkill, but it is the as much as you can do with the what's it called, the script's built-in self-triggering features. You also have this weight here, which is enabling the optional weights system that that applies different strengths to each unique wheel. Here you have the group name, which is of course the name of the block group. So you can change it from wheels and controllers to just, I don't know, Fleming. And of course now, as you can see, this will actually output its status as either OK or error. And well, it doesn't really like that this is called wheels and controller now. I think I accidentally, yeah. There we go, sorry. If I change this to Fleming, save, and recompile or run the script, either one works, well, now it finds the group again. So this isn't set in stone. As long as you have the block group and the name matches what it says in the script, then everything will work out fine. So, obviously, it is case sensitive. Down here you have the mass coefficient. This variable is a bit difficult to explain. It forms a critical part of the math of the script, as it is multiplied, as the weight of the vehicle is multiplied by this variable. But I've arrived at it pretty much by trial and error, just by adjusting it and seeing how the vehicle's suspension strength adjusts, and seeing at which point I get a smooth suspension at all weights, no matter how much the vehicle weighs. It's a bit difficult to explain. It'll make more sense once I get down to the math, but the point is that you can change this if you feel like the suspension strength is too weak or too strong. If the suspension strength is too low, you just increase this value. If the suspension strength is too high, you can decrease this value. And of course here you have two default values for large or small grids. You're going to want to put either one of these in. By default, it's actually the large grid that it assumes you're using. So if you're using the small grid, you're going to want to copy this variable in here. And of course you're going to want the F behind it because it's a float. Here you have the front to back modifiers and the left to right modifiers. These two here. This is why the blocks here have these names: FL, FR, RL, and RR. The first of these letters here, for example the F in wheel FL, it matches the front to back modifier F, and the second letter matches the left to right modifier. This tells the script where the wheel is. FL tells it that it is in the front left, FR front right, RL rear left, and RR rear right. This tells it which of these front to back weights to apply. For example, if we change this right now to 0.5 F instead of 1, then all of the wheels at the front, the wheels FL and FR, will have less strength than the RL and R. No? Did I do that wrong? Wheels and controller. Oh, of course I haven't enabled weights. That makes sense. There we go. You'll notice that the suspension strength of the wheels front left is at 2.682, while the rear left wheel is at 5.364. And you can further change this by, say, making sure that the rear wheels get twice as much power, or suspension strength, I should say. Similarly, you can also change it so that the by changing the left to right weights, you can change, of course, so that the left side wheels get more suspension strength, or right side wheels. This all just allows you to adjust your suspensions in case you have uneven weight distribution. For example, one side of your vehicle might be heavier than another side. That's quite common with, for example, large mobile bases. You might have your weight all to the front or to the back, or you might have something shaped like an aircraft carrier with all the conning tower on the right of the vehicle. In that case, it might be heavier than the rest of the vehicle. So you can just use these weights to adjust them, and it's actually possible to just add more weights to it. For example, if I put this here, this tells it that there's a middle row of wheels, so front, middle, right, and it automatically knows that there's a front left, front right, middle left, middle right, rear left, and rear right wheels. There isn't one yet, so this won't really affect its operation, but if I were to add a middle wheel and a pair of middle wheels, I'm not going to do that right now, but if I were, it would automatically adjust them with these weights, assuming, of course, that weights is on. I forgot if I'd changed it back. That's pretty much it for the settings. So it's really simple to use. You just plug in this group. You optionally change the name, and you can enable the weights, and you can enable auto update, and you can tell them which wheels are where. Right. All right. So now I'm just gonna show you real quick this script in action in real time. I'm gonna enable auto update here, and I'm gonna disable weights. I don't need them right now. And run the script just in case, and it says the strength is 5 for all the wheels. So now I'm just gonna add a bunch of weight to this vehicle. Before I do that, let me just show you what I'm adding. I'm adding a large cargo container with 10,000 units of stone at a mass of 10,000 kilograms of weight, plus the weight of the cargo container, which is not included in that. If I just add that and make sure I add it relatively centered, just for convenience, you see the suspension doesn't really like that, but immediately, or not quite immediately, very quickly, it readjusts. See, now the suspension strength is 17. Let me just add another cargo container, and as you can see, it goes down a bit and then it springs back up, and goes down a bit and springs back up, and the suspension strength just keeps automatically adjusting. That's with the auto adjust on, of course. If auto adjust was off, you would have to do that manually, and as we remove them again, well, back down to 5%. So yeah, that's the script in action. There is a little annoyance with it. I've left auto update on, right? Yes. So let me just real quick drive around. Oh, okay, I should have made some more adjustments to this vehicle. It's a little difficult to see. Let me just real quick switch over to a more functional vehicle. Alright, so this is a survival vehicle that I have, and I'm just going to real quick drive around and show you that there is a problem with this script. It's not my fault though. Yeah. So when I drive around here, Oh, let me just turn on the headlights and rear lights here. You should notice, if I can recreate the problem. Of course, now that I'm on camera, it's not happening. That's because, of course, I haven't enabled auto update, which is the cause of this. You'll notice I keep turning right here, but occasionally the wheel will go back to going straight. That's because the wheels don't really like having the settings adjusted while you're turning, and they're having their settings adjusted every 100 frames. They don't like that. Again, that's not really something I can change. That's just how the wheels react to having their variables changed during runtime. So that's one of the reasons I generally don't use the auto update function. I just manually run it whenever I feel like the suspension could be better. I do use the auto update with things that absolutely need to have good suspension at all times, like say big mobile bases, where if they damaged by a poor suspension, it can have critical results for me. For those, I leave the auto update on, but other than that, I'd recommend not using it. And yeah, that's it for this explanation. I hope it made sense and I wasn't too rambly. I really hope that, because I don't want to have to re-record this. Alright, thanks for watching. Again, I'm Galaxy Guy, and yeah, go check this out on the Steam Workshop.